Liverpool need to think about Liverpool, but they'll be hoping, I'm sure, as any team would, that tonight for Forest in Istanbul is that raucous, crazy 90 minutes of mayhem that will cost them on Sunday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The more energy they can use tonight, and I assume they'll have to use a lot of energy. It's always a difficult game, difficult place to go. So that'll play into Liverpool's hands. And again, it just comes down to how we approach the game. I still think that it'll be a relatively cautious approach to the game. See what Forest have got, see what their legs are like before we decide how we best go and win the game.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about earlier, James, this notion, whilst Honor in that press conference again reiterated, look, we try and entertain, we want to play from the back, we want to press, we want to do all the things that he sees his philosophy giving, and yet there is this sense that Liverpool ease their way into games that start quite slowly, home or away actually, across Arne Slot's reign.
Yeah, I think it has, and I think the difference was, I think there were times last season where maybe you felt it was almost part of a plan at times to kind of, I think Arne Slot talked about, you've got 95 minutes to win a game. You don't need to win it in the first 20 or 30. I think the difference this time around is it's felt less like part of the plan and more like a lack of intensity has hurt Liverpool at times. And they too often they've been playing catch up. I think you only have to look at the number of goalless first halves, where they have fired blanks this season. It has been an issue, but I think what gives you that positivity going into the weekend is that, defensively they are looking, more secure, back-to-back clean sheets. The protection in front of the back line has been better as well. Kanate, form-wise, is looking back to his best. And then, as we spoke about earlier, Mo Salah, it's not just what he's given you on the ball like last weekend, but what he's given you out of it as well. So it does feel like Liverpool are in a better place now. But yeah, you do want to see them go and kind of grab a game by the scruff of the neck from the start, because if you do allow a game to drift, which Liverpool have done too often this season, then you leave yourself open.
James makes the manager's point, you don't need 90 plus minutes to win a game, but I do feel like the first goal in this Liverpool team is quite important, and maybe Sunderland last week is exactly the case in point.
And I think there's clear evidence of that, the importance of that first goal, what it does to Liverpool, and also, more importantly, I guess, what it does to the opposition. If the opposition get that first goal and the low blocks we spoke about all season become more evident, don't they? But should we get that first goal and force to come out? And I think that'll be the big thing on Sunday, because they'll be up for it. They'll feel now we've got 12 games, we probably need 3 wins to make sure we stay in the Premier League. So it'll be an atmosphere, and should they go one down, there'll be that pressure from the fans to go and try and get back into the game, and that will play into our hands. But the most important thing is to try and get that first goal first, isn't it?
Assume for a moment that Gravenberch comes back into the team, which I guess is probably we would all assume. Would he have a detailed plan, do you think, to look after Gibbs White in particular?
No, I don't think so. I think it'll just be whoever comes into that area that you're trying to look after. We obviously saw it in that first game early on in the season at Anfield, where again, coming back to that first goal, that they changed everything, and it just made us so open that the mobility of Elliot Anderson and Morgan Gibbs White caused us so many problems, and we just couldn't quite cope. And of course, once you've gone 1-0 down, you then can't all of a sudden have a defensive attitude to, now we need to look after them. Our thought then was, how do we get back into the game? And we just became more and more open. And in the end, we paid a heavy price.
Yeah. I suppose the other thing maybe to pick out, James, wasn't really much talk around Florian Wirtz for a change in this particular press conference. But maybe, again, a little thing from the weekend was that it wasn't totally about whether he plays well or not, as to whether Liverpool play well or not. He was relatively quiet against Brighton, but the team did the job.
Yeah, which is exactly what you want to see, isn't it? You don't want a situation where Liverpool are heavily reliant on one individual to pull the strings. And I think we have seen this season the evolution of the team. Being probably less reliant on the goals and assists of Mo Salah. It's been a painful process at times with the transitional period with so many new faces. But yeah, Wirtz, the last few months especially, has really kicked on. I think anyone who watched him in the early part of the season, you kind of knew, despite some of the outside noise, it was only a matter of time before he clicked, because the talent was there. It was just things weren't either quite coming off for him, or when he did produce a bit of magic, a teammate wasn't able to capitalise on the chance he created. So yeah, I think, the fact that you've got him now fully up to speed, Salah, probably produced his best performance of the season last weekend. I think also it's big, the fact that Ekitike got a rest last weekend, because I thought he looked jaded, both, especially I think in that game at Sunderland. I think, there's been such a big responsibility on his shoulders in the absence of Isak. He's played so many minutes. I think that was shrewd management to give him a breather. So having him back, hopefully sharp to lead the line, will help. And also some decent signs from Gakpo, another player that I'm sure would be the first to admit he hasn't hit the heights of last season. But that's what you want. You want the unit firing, don't you? Any team are a lot more difficult to stop if you've got 3 or 4 individuals rather than 1 or 2 that can hurt a team. You've more than earned your pastry, your porridge, or whatever floats your boat, James. We appreciate it as always. Thank you very much. We will speak soon, James Pearce. Cheers, guys. Joining us from the AXA. It's another good point. I mean, Wirtz has looked stronger, hasn't he? More resilient in the last couple of months for the work probably done. And same story around Ekitike, what do you think? Yeah. But I mean, Ekitike hit the ground running almost, didn't he? It was almost as if he hadn't read the script when he joined Liverpool, because I'm sure the plan was maybe to integrate him a little bit slower because he was the younger of the 2 strikers that we bought, but he didn't read that script, did he? He kind of just thought, this is for me, this. I'm going to enjoy every minute of this. The shirt doesn't weigh heavy on me, I can handle all that, yeah? And away he went. And he's been really, really good all season. Florian Wirtz was something that was going to take a bit more time, because we, more than him, I think, had to adapt to him. Yeah. All of a sudden now he has to become the focal point of the way that we play. He has to be the first one that you look for because of the ability that he has. And, people talk about physically he's been in the gym and whatever. I don't think Florian Wirtz will ever be about muscle. No. It will always be about, brain power, what's between his ears, isn't it? And he's a sensational footballer. Quiet game at the weekend, but I'm sure he'll be back to his best. He's just one of those players that you can't but enjoy to watch because of the things that he does. Yeah, I would think for you, more than almost anyone, you would appreciate that kind of cerebral football. Does he make your team for Sunday? What is your team for Sunday? Yeah. I mean, obviously listen to Arne Slot, and he mentioned something there. He said starters. Yes. So he's got this thing about these are my starters. Yeah. So I think he's going to try and get as many starters into the team as possible. Hence the reason I think he'll play Szoboszlai on the right, because Szoboszlai is a starter, as is Gravenberch, as is Wirtz, as is McAllister. Yeah. And playing this team gets them all in. The only slight surprise is probably Robertson. But I think Arne Slot might look and think, I quite like the performance at Sunderland and the calmness that Robbo gave us. And also important to keep Robertson's legs going. Yeah. Because now we've got the FA Cup torn away to Wolves. We've got the Champions League coming up, isn't it? So this is a team I would go with. Who knows? Yeah, and he seems to have a little bit more of an understanding with Cody Gakpo as yet than Milos Kerkez. So yeah, that's an interesting team, and one that we hope will go and do the job. Well, I think the thing is now that we've kind of decided that Florian Wirtz plays in the middle. Yeah. That means that the 3 guarantees we always had in there, one of them can't start or one of them has to play elsewhere. Hence the reason that I think Szoboszlai will play right back. We appreciate your time as always, Jan, and your insights. Very great stuff. Thanks to Jan and to James for getting up early for us. That is it for another preview show. So Matchday Live with you at 12:45 on Sunday lunchtime live. Audio comes available from 2 o'clock on LFC TV and all red video. We've heard from the boss. We've got a feeling we know what Sunday might bring. We'll get some clues tonight at Fenerbahce. See you next time.